Hi everyone, thanks for having me and thanks for joining. Welcome to my talk. Today I will talk about how your organization can maximize open source business value. And this is a program that I ran before as an OSPO program manager. Excuse me. A business unit asked us to provide open source guidelines specifically focused on business side, in addition to our engineering guidelines. For example, when they use open source in their product and solutions, what do they need to pay attention and how to avoid the pitfalls so that they can build more commercially competitive, safe products efficiently, minimizing risks around open source. So in this talk, I'm going to share some of the example of the guidelines which I hope also you find useful for your organization. So our agenda today, firstly, I will talk about why an organization needs to establish and align open source development strategy with their business and impact without it. Then I will introduce typical open source business models and open source commercialization path. Next, I will share an organization strategic development approach with open source. For example, what type of project we work on to fit our purpose, what we need to consider to minimize the risks, and why we regularly review the competitive technologies. Then finally, I'll wrap up with the final thought. Then we will have some time for Q&A. So a bit about my background for those who came to my talk first time. So I'm a staff TPM, participating in multiple open source communities, regularly presenting in global conferences like as a speaker, a program committee member, and a chair. At the beginning of my career, I started as a Windows software developer at a global tech company in Japan. Then as an engineer and a manager, I worked with US and UK companies, leading teams to develop Windows operating system and Windows and Nokia mobile embedded software, Linux, Android platforms and products. About 10 years ago, I changed my career from telecoms to cloud as a program manager, where I led company M&A, data center, WebEx rollout, security, compliance, governance, and many other corporate programs. Most recently, as an open source program manager, I led multiple programs to enable our company's business goals around open source. So let's get started. Why do we align open source business strategy to maximize business value? Many companies that use open source understand its business value, speed, efficiency, flexibility, and many other advantages. But it is important to remember that the full potential of open source is best realized when technology is paired with successful community engagement, along with an effective business strategy. So as a first step, it is critical for enterprise leaders to build a strong strategy with open source for their products, identifying what and where they want to invest for the revenue growth. And in order to take advantage of these benefits, it's critical for organizations to make a strong, consistent commitment to community participation, in addition to the technology and business growth. In general, when we develop a new product or start a new project, we will need a business case, including a return on investment plan, in order to secure buy-in within the organization. This also applies for open source software. Sufficient research and understanding of the risks is critical. We need to remember that open source itself is not a strategy. Open source has a very different philosophy and process to create the software. We need to be precise. The strategy is made up from why, what, and how we open source. That will create a clear vision of how to realize our business goals. So what would happen if we don't have a strategy? We may create products that will not produce revenue or lose revenue. We may degrade the value of our proprietary software or surprise the customer community by license changes or incorrect approach. And there is a risk to damage to our business or the company reputation. Open source can have a significant impact on a business, both positively and negatively. Therefore, before you start, it is very important to build a clear strategy on it. In the organization, there are many people who want to use open source, but not everyone is familiar with how and which projects to choose, or how to use open source in a way that fits for their business purposes. As a center of gravity for the organization's open source operations, OSPO, Open Source Program Office, can provide a comprehensive guideline to help business units to build an effective strategy to maximize their opportunity while minimizing their business risks. For this purpose, OSPO provided an additional best practice guide, questionnaire with consultations to ensure open source development strategies are aligned with our corporate business goals. And this is also helps to bring consistency to the ecosystem, how we approach open source. So from the next section, I would introduce typical open source business models. So these are generally most common open source business models. They are not mutually exclusive. They are usually combined and customized to fit each business. The service and support model, where we pay for professional support. Red Hat Enterprise Linux might be the good example. It offers tested software for free and charges for professional technical support services, such as bug fixes, regular releases, new features, and optimizations. It might be suitable for enterprise customers that look for a one-stop service with timely support. New feature development may be prioritized based on the customer demand. Although this is a popular model with startups and more established companies, very few have successfully adopted this model, as it is hard to scale and can be expensive with the cost of additional staff, and total cost can exceed the service revenue. The open core model, where we pay for proprietary and or enhanced functionality. This is perhaps one of the most widely adopted models. Examples are MongoDB, Elastic, and GitLab. In this model, users can access core versions of technology as open source and a more featured and supported version as a proprietary offering. Typically, it provides a community or freemium version and sells an enterprise or premium version. In this model, it's important to curate the differences between the open source and the proprietary part to avoid impact to the project. If the open source project is weak, enterprise proprietary offering will likely suffer. As a primary contributor, the sponsor company can have direct control and license and influence the project roadmap and the licensing model. But sometimes an active community will create open source alternatives to to the proprietary features. The hosting SaaS model, where we pay for tooling and operations. This is a most recent model, followed the rise of cloud computing. Examples are Azure, Databricks, and WordPress. It offers bundling of open source service and products as a managed cloud service. Large public cloud providers offer this model, and customers use their services. For this reason, sometimes open source companies change their product licensing to prohibit selling their software as a service without paying royalties to protect their commercial interests. The cloud providers can offer fully integrated service by guiding users towards their commercial offerings, and if there's a lack of community consensus, it may lose that trust of the community. The marketplace as partnership. Google Android generates revenue by platforming the Google Play Store, Google Maps, and directing mobile web traffic through search engine. Mozilla Firefox earns its revenue from partnerships with companies as built-in search options in the browser. There are more other business models than this, but however, most of them are a combination of each. The best business model will depend on the type of product, solution, market, and company strategy. The key is to customize and adopt a model that suits you best, that satisfies both market and your business, ensuring ROI. It requires a lot of thought around how to balance the commercial and open offerings. For example, if the open offering goes too far, there is no natural extension to the commercial offering. And if the open offering is not sufficient, the community will not be interested. When they are done well, product create unique value, benefiting from the opportunity to monetize while being welcome and accepted by the entire ecosystem. The next section is open source commercialization, a go-to-market strategy. The commercialization journey of products with open source is very different to those based on proprietary software. Users, who are the potential future customers, want to make their own selections and avoid long procurement cycles. We take a developer community-driven approach to educate how the project works rather than marketing the products. PLG, product-led growth, is a growth strategy where the product drives user acquisition and engagement. In the context of open source, it allows users to try before they buy and engage as a potential future customers who like the product and stay loyal. They form a developer community that can also act as a support and sales team to disseminate your product. So this diagram by Peter Levin from Community to Commercialization shows open source commercialization path. Here I use value ladder as opposed to a sales funnel to better reflect incremental value. This is broken down into 4 stages. Stage 1, awareness. Developer community engagement. In this first stage, the focus is to generate awareness of the open source project and product in the developers community in order to grow the user base. Promote the technical value by driving engagement and grow interest, like with forums or blogs. Then stage 2, consideration. product strategy refinement. In this stage, we start to analyze user patterns and user feedback, explore that what and how it naturally extends to drive the revenue, and further refine product strategy to mature product user into product consumers. Stage 3, evaluation, sales development. Start outbound marketing with specific segments who find values in the project. Learn more about users. Are they larger enterprise or just hobby users? Understand further commercial use case. Focus on the needs of users and what they want to do with the project and product. Then stage 4, purchase, sales extension and further adoptions. Sales promotions to enterprise, both bottom-up user adoption to expand usage and top-down sales to land deals. The go-to-market journey also depends on products, solution, market, and company. To conclude, we need to grow together with the community by letting developers, who are primary decision makers for commercial open source software, try how our technology works in their own environment. We can build and grow a community with values and grows their wider interests. We must all work aligned across the business functions, from developers to product managers, marketing, sales, to leadership teams. And all must stay, excuse me, and all must stay focused on our potential customer needs. This is why we should build a solid product strategy at the beginning and share within the organization and continue to review so that they share a same framing in their mind. And it's important to continue refining the productization approach to mature open source project users and product consumers. We must always focus on their needs, our values, and capabilities, where our potential customers will be happy to pay for. Now we look at the strategic development approach that the organization to take in the next section. The purpose of developing open source tends to fall into one of 3 patterns. Create a new project to realize your unique technology, new features, or create new platforms. And enhance existing project to utilize existing features and enhance. Or sometimes we just want to use to get the job done without development. And organizations that take strategic development approach around open source tend to work on either creating their original company-owned projects from scratch or contributing to the existing projects. Here I define as third-party projects that belongs to other organizations or foundations. In the next slides, let's look at what we need to pay attention for each project type. When we initiate our original project and build a community, we can benefit from the power of community. Many skilled people from outside, diverse viewpoints that increase resilience within the business. As a good open source citizen, we need to make communities as a better place instead of duplicating our efforts. Therefore, before starting a new project, we must ensure that our project is unique and differentiate from the existing projects, so that the project will likely to be successful and benefit for both business and the entire ecosystem. If your company creates its own project, your organization will naturally become a maintainer. And you'd like to build and maintain a community that is healthy and open around that project. Here, make sure your organization is willing to make a long-term commitment to maintain the project. If they cannot, the organization should not start to create a new project. If the goal is to collaborate internally, inner source would be a better option. To invite more contributors, transparency is key to build a successful project community. Share the project roadmap and feature plan so the people can check if it's aligned with their business goals. If the community loses interest or misunderstands, it is likely the project may fail. The project license can indicate an intention to users. For example, using a CLA for a vendor-driven product creates the impression that you're leaving the door open to your licensing or changing the license, whereas using a DCO often feels more open and lower barrier to entry for contributors than CLA. You would need to engage with your legal team and make business decisions about what type of license is best for you. Then consider how your licensing would impact your efforts to build a community around your project. Now let's look at third-party open source projects that are not owned by your company. By using third-party open source project and adapt it into your solution, we can access immediately available technologies or benefit from established community power. If the project plays a key part in your product, we are likely to modify and upstream the code for better productivity. There are many projects available, and it's important to choose the right one. If we don't choose the right project, it may cost more and or waste our effort, so not good. To minimize the risks, we need to consider a few aspects. So make sure the project meets the functional requirements and check that it's compatible with your environment like operating system, hardware architecture, and programming language. Understand the project license compliance. GPL and derived licenses will mostly enforce you to contribute customization to the original project before you can monetize, while other licenses are more flexible. Project health is a good indicator for the viability. Projects with significant adoption tend to be more successful and safe. Explore and research trends, forks, dependent projects, and which other companies are using them. Make sure the project is active and mature. Ensure it has a good set of documentation and shared roadmap, a feature plan publicly. Evaluate the community culture. The project with good culture and communication will be most sustainable. Project governance and leadership is equally important. Look for neutral governance, where decisions are made openly by people from different organizations. Watch out if the project is owned or controlled by your competitors. Make sure the security policy is documented with a solid process allowing anyone to report quickly. Our customers do rely on us to ship products that are safe and secure, and this applies to all components within these products. Company engagement. If the project is used in a core part of our solution or our flagship products, we must ensure our business units are ready to commit sufficient budget and resources to contribute to the project. To avoid unexpected surprises that could impact our customers, we must engage with the project community so that we have a good visibility and influence on the future direction. In addition, our contributions towards the project needs to be consistent and aligned within the organization in order to avoid community frustration and that to protect our company reputation. The final section is about competitive technology. Being aware of potentially competitive project is critical at both the start and during the lifetime of the products. When we start a new product development, we should research existing open source projects that may directly compete. If any are found, both the technical quality and community's potential should be reviewed. So we need to review competitive open source projects on a regular basis. If any competitive project is gaining momentum in usage, contribution, or vendor adoption, our product position is at risk in the market. In this situation, you may need to review the strategy of your product and project. So open source can become a powerful tool, but also introduces risk if we don't pay attention to the basics. And there's no magic wand that guarantees revenue increase from open source. But we can guide the teams on what to consider to create a strong strategy that leads to business success. And if your organization has an OSPO as a bridge of business functions, can help you do this, guiding organization. We must remember that engagement with the community is critical to make open source successful. This is not just for your business, but for the entire open source ecosystem growth. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you for listening. And now I'd like to invite your questions. And I'd love to also hear which type of open source business guidelines you're available, your organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. Could you comment on the long-term commitment to an OSS project? What in your view, is a long-term commitment?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So it depends on the scale of the product and also company strategies. And also, so it is important and probably agreed with the top management, product management. And also what we did was to talk with engineering team as well as the product team and also head of OSPO and also, quite senior level, how long is the good, and then some of the project, but I think at least, because open source never, should be closed, should be closed down properly, but someone might be using, so it shouldn't be closed quickly. And if you open it, you have to have a responsibility. So we say like 5 to 10 years, that was what we agreed, but there is a, time we need a large volume of resources and then it will calm down. So we manage that. But actually, at least a few years, the big resources. But we have to change the direction and, change our strategies. Depends, really depends on the situation. This is why that we regularly review every few months of how many resources to allocate. So, but at least we should have a long-term commitment with the top management team, and they're aware so that they cannot cut the people.
Okay, that's a very good advice, making sure we have the top management support. Thank you very much.
Always.
Other questions?
Thank you for great talk. Well, regarding to the project health, well, is there any sufficient tool or framework to evaluate the health of the project?
Thank you. So, yeah, we have some, in yesterday's talk, I was talking about the viability of the business on top of the BU teams running the health project health check. So we had a quite big open source team in my previous company organization, and there is a big they're not part of OSPO, but there's a big open source, or what they're called, I can't remember, open source team who are just looking across the across the companies, all of the open source, and they are running a regular health check, project health check, which is quite common. And you can see, there are many matrix available from many different projects like Chaos and all these other projects, and they're using that. And they also have a very unique one, which they defined. And on top of that, as part of OSPO program, I ran the project viability, what was it called? Project viability check assessment I ran every 6 months. The reason why it's every 6 months is if we run often, engineers don't like that. They don't want to be, and then project viability won't be lost so quickly. So we agreed that 6 months, every 2 quarters are perfect. So yeah, we had our own defined criteria and assessment, and also referring some of the useful community matrix as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Other questions? Here you go.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the community-driven projects. So what do you think the most important key factors in building and scaling up the community?
Sorry, I missed the first part. I'm sorry.
So what are the key factors?
Key factors
Yeah.
of
What is the important thing in creating and scaling up the communities?
scaling of the... Okay. Yes, there are many ways, and there are many sort of best practice guidelines available from many open source communities. But I think important thing is that I'm keep repeating in my talk that having an open and healthy, inclusive community is really important. I know this is quite high level, and people think and it's like, but the open source community really depends on the scale of background of the project, and also the use product, and also the company who use them. However, in general, making a healthy, good, inclusive, open community is really, really a key, because without having outside contributors, there's no point to open source. In your organization, yes, this is open source, doesn't mean anything. We need more external talent, and we want them to be interested. So I think I was surprised. I have a look at the 30, 40 our strategic open source projects website and their GitHub site, and then there are not many of them are really understandable. I'm looking at not the user's viewpoint, I'm just looking at them, and I thought, there are so many information, but I just cannot find any information. There are so many of them, and it's not easy to find the information you want to find. So, but there are a few projects which are very popular and have a lot of contributors. So I think maybe you can find some good examples and look at their website and see their GitHub and what type of informations are available and which type of adopters they have, and then how they grow. succeeded to grow their communities. I think that is also useful. But the key is that it has to be open. I think that is really important and understandable, not complicated. I think that's what I found.
Yeah, thank you so much.